Hi guys, and welcome back to another fly tying video. What you see in the vise is what I call a general purpose emerging sedge. So without further ado, let's get into it. The hook in the vise is a Hanak H333 barbless hook at size 10. It's on a fine wire and it's finished in black nickel. The thread I'm going to be using today is from Simplify. It's nano silk at 6/0 and it's brown. So as always with the nano silks, we're just going to get a tiny touch of super glue onto the shank of the hook. Now this fly, it's on a fine wire hook, so if you are going to use it for still water fishing, I would suggest you use something like a 5 weight. You might get away with a 6 weight, but not much heavier than that. You don't want to put any undue pressure on the fine wire. For the rivers, I dare say you'll be fishing a 3 or a 4 weight anyway, so you should have no problems whatsoever fishing this fly. That's why I call it general purpose. It's good for still water as well as river. Sedge is quite a large insect, so you can get away with the bigger sizes. Now the first thing I want to do is create a trailing shuck, and what I'm going to be using for that is some of this micro crinkle flash. I just need a small part. So I'll take that off there, and what I want to do is just create folds in the crinkle flash so that I end up with just 3 strands. So if I catch that like so, then I can catch it all the way down. Try and keep it on the top of the shank as you're coming down. Bring it all the way to what I would say is going to be the base of the fly. I'll just come back in open turns, and before I let go of it with my fingers, I'm going to take about 1/2 centimetre, 4 to 5 mil, and just take that away, and that just gives the slight impression that we have a trailing shuck from the emerging insect. So the next thing I want to do is add in my rib. And what I'm using here is light gold. It's 0.1 millimeters. Now if you haven't got light gold, copper will do a very similar job. It's just I like this colour. It seems to stand out against the body. I'm just going to catch that in at the top. The reason I'm catching it in so far up is I want to try and maintain the right width for the whole body. So I brought that down to the base of the fly. It's just slipping down because of the shape of the hook, but I can bring that back. Next thing then, we're going to add in our body fibres, and what I've got here is a pheasant tail. Now I'm not sure if it's been dyed or it's just an unusual colour. I've had it for that long. This one, I've just found it in my collection, and I thought it would be nice for tying up this fly. So I'm just going to take 3 to 4 strands from the stalk, and then what I want to do is just remove the tips. Don't want the tips in. That's where it's at its weakest, and I'm going to tie it in with the good side down to the hook. Now the reason for that is I want that good side to be on the body. So I'll catch that in. I'm going to come all the way back up with my thread, and I'm going to pause it just here. Now I want it to end probably the body. I want to come as far as about here. Now what will frustrate you with this fly is if you don't give yourself enough room to complete the wing and the various bits and bobs that's going to go on. So I'm just going to bring my thread all the way back here, and the reason I brought it back that far is I'm going to catch in the pheasant tail with my fly tying clip, and I'm going to bring it round like so. Now the reason I like to do this is I can see exactly where it's going to fall, and I can avoid that hook point. Now if you catch the hook point with pheasant tail, you're going to have a bad day. It'll just snap your pheasant tail fibres, and you'll need to start again with the body. So that's coming round fairly nice, and now that the threads come to meet the pheasant tail, I can just catch that in with a crisscross motion, a couple of turns in front, and then I can take away that body material. And that's looking not too bad. Let me have a look at your side. Yep, looking good. So I'll grab my wire now and I'm going to come in the opposite direction. I want fairly wide turns, but I want them to be fairly even. Give that segmented look to the fly. And as you can see, the light gold does stand out against this dark background. All the way up to the top here. And then I can catch it in with my thread. Now I'm just going to twist that away. The next thing we're going to do is add in our first wing, and what I've got here is some deer hair. I'm not going to need to stack it, it's very short, this little patch I've got. I don't know how well you'll see, but it's very short. So I'm going to just pinch off, just off camera here, a little amount. Now, despite the fact it is short, I'm still going to have to comb out the underfur, which is quite significant there, so I'll get rid of that. Now, the first thing I want to do is grab it by the cut ends, and I just want to show it up to the fly. Yeah, I'm not going to have to trim very much, but I will have to trim just a little bit off the front here. Now, before I come in and catch in my wing, I'm going to get plenty of wax onto the nano silk. And this just helps grip the deer hair. So I'll come in over the top, got about 2mm of the deer hair in that loose turn there. The next turn I'm going to put some force into it, then I'm going to come through my cut ends to secure it into place. Now if I let go of the deer hair, that's fanned out nice, and this is going to be primarily what's going to keep the emerging pattern in the surface film. So far so good. So I'm just going to create a dubbing loop now by splitting my thread, and what I'm going to put in that dubbing loop is Trout line squirrel dub, and it's number 8. Now, not a very descriptive name for a dubbing, but basically it's black squirrel, and it has little flecks of purple and violet in it. And what I want to do with this is stretch it all out like so, and then I'll just put it into my clip, and then I'll come in with my dubbing needle, open up the thread, which is fairly easy for a 6/0, and then I can insert my dubbing. Catch that in. Now, in this larger size, it could be used in a number of ways. For still water, you could have maybe a couple of Bob's Bits flies above it and use it as a sighter. When that sort of moves, you would be inclined to strike because something's taking your tiny Bob's Bits. Now, next thing I'm going to do is just wrap up towards the wing, and then what I want to do is just try and get that bulk on there, and then I'll come in front. So that's looking not too bad. Then I can come in again with my Velcro brush, just tease out some of that dubbing. It is very subtle. Once I've got my other wing on here, you'll hardly know that I've put a coloured dubbing on. Now, so before I start the next part, my wax is falling a bits here, I've no idea why, but I'm going to get another little bit of wax onto my thread. Now, I'm going to use some CDC for an overwing. Now, you'll notice with CDC, it has a natural bend in the feather, and you want this to bend over the top of your deer hair. Now I'm going to use 2 plumes on this occasion. Sometimes, depending on how the fly is looking, I'll use up to 3. And I'm going to show that again up to the hook. Try and line the tips up as best you can. And that's looking not too shabby. So if I grab that now, just hold it into place with a few turns. Let me have a look at it. That's sitting pretty nice. Now, from a fish's perspective, of course, it's looking up. It'll see that dark wing like you have on sedges and not suspect it's about to be caught. Okay, so I'm going to take away my excess there. I'm happy with the position of the CDC. And I'm just going to tidy up this front bit. And once again, just to finish the fly off, this time I'm going to come in with the Mad Rabbit Black Pepper, which is a bit more descriptive. It's just squirrel with flecks of black in. Somehow I've managed to get that mixed up with some olive. I'll get rid of that. And I'm going to just get that into my clip. So I'm going to tease it out like so, and then just put it in my clip, ready for when I come to split my thread once again. The advantage of using the 6/0 over the 12/0 for this fly is that the splitting of the thread is very easy, whereas when you're using 12/0 you can spend a bit of time trying to find that little split. Now I see a big chunk in there. I'm going to take that out, and then I can spin this up like so. I'll just pull out some of that. I don't want it big and bushy. It needs to be quite a thin affair. And then what I'm going to do is at the front here, I can wrap up, and then once I've got that dubbing loop happening, I can then tease it back until I have completely covered the front. Now I don't want a huge head here, so the next thing I'm going to do is add in the tiniest touch of super glue onto my nano silk, and then bring in my whip finish tool. 3 turns, and then I can tighten that all up. And because I've put the super glue on, there's no need to go in afterwards. Then just before I finish up, I can come in with my Velcro brush and tidy that all up. Now, what I would usually do in the good old days, I would apply some gink or whatever, but because I've got CDC in this fly, I'm not going to worry about that. And that's looking not too shabby. Now it can be quite difficult to see on the water. If you were of a mind to, you could add a sighter post before you do the dubbing at the front. But I hope that's been of some use to you and given you some ideas for your own sedge patterns. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.